All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, friends. I hope everybody is doing well. This is the intro, or From Nothing to 3D platformer in Unreal. This is the very first time we've ever done one of our 2-hour intro taster classes in Unreal, actually, which is kind of wild. We've done an absolute ton of them in Unity, a couple in Godot. And we've never wound up going over to Unreal for the simple fact that our school is so collaborative, and there's so many people who use Unity, and Godot is this budding indie thing. But I'm very excited to get started in Unreal and teach all of you a little bit about Unreal. I would love, before I do my sort of formal intro and I let Miguel here loose upon you, I would love to see in the chat a GIF and or emoji about how you are currently feeling. Miguel, what would you drop?
Hey. A nice emoji smile, just it. I'm always happy, to be honest. It's nice to be a game developer. So
yeah,
if you guys are trying to pursue this career, best of luck. This is amazing. Yeah.
yes, heck yeah, awesome. I love that. Also, I've seen some good ones. Spider-Man, ready. Dancing cute fox thing. Is that a fursona? That's awesome. All right. Ghosts, happy baby. Heck yeah. All right. Well, then, let me jump in. I'll do my little spiel, and I hand it over to Miguel and shut up and let you learn cool Unreal stuff. Welcome all. As I said, this is one of our From Nothing to Something classes. We used to run a ton of these, a couple every month. It's been a while since we've run it because me and the team, as y'all know, have been redesigning exactly what we're offering. I have very exciting stuff to announce for next year, coming up the next couple of months, but I'm not quite ready to announce it. But what you will see is we're trying to revitalize the Discord, reactivate the Discord, get people back here, learning cool stuff, making great games, doing all of the magical, wizardy game dev crap that we all know and love about this space. And this class and free classes like it are in the interest of doing exactly that. We actually have somebody who's going to be coming in to boot back up community lectures as well, so we'll start seeing 1-hour taster classes from cool people once a month or so, and we'll be running these free 2-hour classes. Miguel is here tonight to teach you Unreal. Tomorrow, I'm going back to Basics, a class that I haven't taught in a long time, since actually I taught it in India 2 years ago. I'll be teaching people how to use paper prototyping in the age of AI, which is going to be an interesting topic. So come and learn from me tomorrow night. This class, part of the reason to reactivate the class is because we finally are running our beloved level 3 class, a level 3 boot camp once again. For those who are unfamiliar with IGA Level 3, that's actually, that was our claim to fame for a very long time. And we've been on pause with the class as we decided what the heck to do with our future. So IGA Level 3, I'm going to talk about at the end of the class. At the end of this class is usually how I do it. I'll do a more formal, like 10-minute sit down. We'll let Miguel go. And for anybody who wants to hear more in depth about what Level 3 is, we can all talk about it together. But for the most part, it is now a 2-month instead of a 4-month, to better fit everybody's lives, a boot camp in which you join a team, or you are now allowed to work solo if you wish, build an original game from start to finish, and then launch it to a store of your choice under the guidance of 6 industry professionals. It's a fantastic time. Live-only classes happens all inside this Discord. We have a wacky time. We make great games. So check out Level 3. Apply if you wish. The early bird discount, which is $200 off, ends this Friday. So get an application. I'll talk about it more formally at the end, so if you want to hear exactly who the professors are, exactly the curriculum, stay until the end of the class. But for now, it's time for us to learn some cool Unreal stuff, as I promised. Game development is exciting, and in my opinion, Unreal is maybe the most exciting engine right now. Miguel, what's your take on the most exciting game engine right now?
It's hard to answer this question when I've worked on Unreal for my past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would obviously have to say Unreal, but I have started in Unity, and I don't know if you guys here have already tried some engines. And usually the normal and the standard process is that a game developer starts on Unity because it has the less complexity to enter, and then they progress depending on what they want to do with their career. I started with Unity, and then I had the luck to work on some AAA companies, and I've learned Unreal. And honestly, up until now, I would say it's impossible to beat this engine because, oh, sorry, I have to take my cat from the table sometimes because he's gonna be here, and I'm afraid he's gonna ruin the setup and the cables.
Okay.
But it has a lot of features. It has a lot of stuff. It has already built-in architecture that you can use to expand and to develop your game. And sorry about my cat.
You're okay.
Tiki. It's Tiki. It's his name, but yeah, I'm just afraid of the cables. And
Okay.
eventually, after I take him out of here 2 or 3 times, he'll just settle. So yeah, Unreal is a pretty complex engine. It comes with, obviously, it has pros and cons as every engine. The pros are that there's a lot of built-in content. You don't need to start from scratch. The cons is obviously the level of complexity to get specialized into every department and every area. Here he comes again. No, but that's essentially my take on it.
Amazing. Yeah, I don't actually know how I would answer that question these days. I was sort of lucky to jump into Unity. That's my cats in the background. Sort of lucky to jump into Unity when it very first started being a thing. I've been working in industry for about 12 years now. And I got started actually before IDEs were really a thing, or at least were being widely used. So my first engine was Flash, but then my first professional engine was using Cocos 2D. We switched to Unity pretty quickly though, and then I've been using Unity for over 10 years. But these days, Godot's like open source mission is so inspiring and so cool, and I'm so down for it. And then Unity also lost me a bit during what they did a few years ago. And Unreal has just continued to be cool. It's one of the oldest engines that there is. And it's inspiring how Unreal is attempting to like expand the boundaries of what a game engine does. And Unity, I think, is a little bit behind that curve. So I think any of the engines are worth messing around with, people. And as you learn more, you're going to be able to experiment and make games in all kinds of cool departments. But today is about Unreal. So I am very happy to welcome to the stage Miguel here. Miguel is a new professor for us. Miguel has not taught for us in the past, but when we went looking for an Unreal professor, he reached out to me on LinkedIn and we had a chat. And I'm excited by your experience, Miguel, and excited to let you loose upon these wonderful folks. Miguel is a senior software engineer. Absolutely. Miguel is a senior software engineer at Side, and he's been using Unreal for the past 5 years. He'll be running you through a really simple 2-hour workshop here where you'll make something like Mario using the built-in Unreal tools to get you acquainted with how the engine works. This class is not about you learning everything that there is to learn about Unreal. Hell no. No way you can do that in 2 hours. Instead, we're trying to get you just over that very first hump so that you feel comfortable continuing to learn on your own time and hopefully making a really cool game. So without further ado, can we actually, let's do one more round of GIFs and or emojis to say welcome to Miguel in this class and in this community. I'd love to see some celebratory GIFs and emojis for Miguel. Heck yeah. Hello. Welcome. You'll never escape now. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to hand it off to you then, Miguel. I will turn off my camera so that folks can focus on you, but I'm here listening. Just call me if you need me for whatever reason. Folks who are here in the classroom, you can communicate via chat. Obviously, if you're having a major problem, we can pull people up on stage so you can screen share. Just ask in the chat, and as long as Miguel approves it, I'll pull you up. And otherwise, have a fun time, everybody. We have that paper prototyping class tomorrow. You can sign up there, and I will talk about level 3 at the end for those interested. All right. Enjoy, Miguel. Kick some butt.
Okay. So can you guys see my screen first? Welcome, everybody. I'll try to keep this very slow paced. So I'm a very energetic guy. So if you guys notice I'm rushing or something, I'm afraid to talk, I can slow down and keep this easy for you. Also, my cat's in the back, so now he's calm. Eventually, I might have to tell him to leave the stage. Okay, if you guys can see my screen, this is the Epic Games Launcher, and we're gonna go with Unreal Engine 5.7.4. I've already tried a little bit on 5.8, but I'm comfortable on 5.7.4. I know it's stable. I've been working here, my current job. So let's first launch this. I already have some projects there, but I want to go through all the process with you. For those who haven't opened the engine yet, it might take a little bit more, but I'll be paying attention. If you guys want me to wait, I can wait. Okay, so once we reach this page, we want to create a new project, obviously, and we are going to go with a template exactly because of those trade-offs I mentioned in the beginning. If it was Unity, we would be comfortable doing something from the very beginning. Here, setting up a character has a lot of complexity. Happily, Unreal has these templates that allow us to start on something that's already built, and we can start to get creative here. So we don't have to go to all these boring processes on the beginning. We're gonna go with the third person. So you can select this. Let's go with Blueprint, not C++. Let's keep it simple right now. And essentially, blueprints. I don't know. I don't know your background. Your background. I don't know if you're engineers or programmers or artists, but I guess you might know C++ is a programming language. Unreal is built in C++, but they created Blueprint, which is essentially a visual language, scripting language that essentially mimics what C++ does on an higher level and very simple. Doesn't have as much control as C++, but it's great for beginners, great for artists, great for just configuration design. So let's go with this. We can keep the rest default,
Hey,
and
Miguel.
let's just.
I just want to say clearly, if anybody hasn't downloaded Unreal, I just dropped instructions in the chat. Make sure everybody has it downloaded. And then, how do you want people to do questions if there's questions? We run a podcast where we use a Q emoji often, so maybe if you're watching chat for the Q emojis.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
I'll be paying attention.
All right.
Okay, so this is the Unreal Editor. If I'll wait a little bit more for those who haven't opened this yet, because as I told you the first time, it might take a little bit. That's one of the downsides of Unreal, is that it has a lot of stuff. So since it has a lot of content built in, it takes more time to load, and as projects go bigger and bigger, if we don't manage the memories well, it will take some time. But yeah, compiling shaders, yeah, I imagine it's a common thing. It's just the first time, hopefully, so I can take it easy. Compiling shaders, optimize performance during gameplay. Yeah, exactly. But I'll be running a quick introduction on what we're seeing here. This is the Unreal Editor, and the first thing you see once you open a project, and you can see already some familiar stuff. This is a scene. This is our scene. This is our world, which Unreal has already created for us with some platforms and some funny things. And there are some windows around, and I'm going to explain you what the most important windows are. And then we can go into the conversations in the chat. I'll try to not keep distracted. So if we click on things, we can see there are windows changing, and the main one that's changing is the details panel. Essentially, the details panel shows us properties and configurations that we can change for a certain actor. And even before that, what is an actor? For these, I'll have to explain you a little bit of the architecture in Unreal, like very high level. Let's not try to complicate this, but Unreal has an architecture model called actors and components, where essentially there are two fundamental pieces that compose your game. There are a lot more. These two are the core, essentially. And actors are basically everything you can see in a scene. If it has a physical body, if you can click on it, if you can see it, it means there's an actor present there, because it's the most basic thing that can have a representation in the world just by itself. And an actor is made of components. So as you can see here in the details, if you click anything, pretty much, let's try to get something more complex. Okay, I don't think there's anything that has more than one component here, because it's a pretty basic scene. But essentially here, we can see the actor, SMQ, for example, and this is a list of components. It would have more, but in this case, there's just one. And these components are basically modular pieces of functionality that build up these actors. So in this case, this is a static mesh component. A static mesh is something that displays a mesh. So you can ask, okay, but what is a mesh? Then we would go into rendering concepts. A mesh is essentially anything that you can see that is rendering is built by triangles. And if we toggle the wireframe, you would see what is going on. these are just meshes, the things we can see. Let's put these back on. And yeah, there are a lot of components, and the reasoning, like we can program actors and we can program components. The reasoning, what the major thing that distinguishes the two is, first, actors are built of components. Components are not built of anything. They have their own logic, but they cannot exist just by themselves. So they need an actor to do something. Similar to if you've worked with Unity, they have a similar model. And here, basically, we want components to have a modular functionality that can be shared across different actors, where actors, if we program an actor, it will be something more bespoke, something more customized that we don't want shared, pretty much. It's specific for that representation, that actor, that entity. Let me see if there are some questions, and pause here a little bit. Well, it's similar to Unity. Yeah, actually, if you've tried Unity before, if you're familiar with Unity, there's a really cool page from Unreal Engine. You can just type in Google Unreal Engine or Unity to Unreal Engine. They have a dedicated page that translates the concepts from Unity to Unreal Engine, so you can understand better what's going on, because there are a lot of similarities. The model of the engine inside is very different, but the representation and the things that you can see are very similar. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. So the details panel, essentially, as I told you, is what allows you to see the properties of an actor and its components. So for example, if we click here, this is a static mesh actor, which is an actor that has a static mesh component, doesn't have anything else. So we can see the properties that these components have exposed here: a static mesh, a material, some physics stuff, collision stuff, which we'll use a lot this class, lighting, mesh painting, rendering. There's a lot of things, like it's pretty complex per se, but you don't need any of these, so don't get scared. The core thing you need to know is that mesh components contain a mesh, and mesh is the thing you see, the physical thing you see. Okay. Then, apart from the details panel, we have the world outliner. The world outliner is like the scene, I believe, from Unity. So it is exactly the composition of the scene. It shows and displays all the actors that you have. So you can iterate over them and organize them by folders, or group them, or attach them to each other if you want. This is the list. Then we have the content browser here. The content browser is like the folder workspace that you have. So is where you organize your files, your assets, everything. So for the context of this class, we can start by creating in the content here. We don't want to go into the engine, and we are also not allowed. We can do anything here. The content is where our project will live in terms of assets. These are the assets that are provided from Unreal for this template. And we can create our little folder here, call it something. I'll call it class. So we can put our assets here once we start working. Okay, if you don't want to lose track of this, also, there's this friendly feature. You can right-click here on the folder you created, add to favorites, and then it's of easy access here, easy to not get lost. This is a simple project, but on projects that grow bigger and bigger, it's hard to lose track of this. And okay, I think the core windows we have are already explained. Then we have this, which is a quick action button to add actors. We can add any kind of actor that we can. Let's just search for actor, for example. I was explaining what an actor is, and this is the best representation, which is an actor that doesn't have anything. So you pretty much can't see it. There's this gizmo that Unreal puts, so you can click on it. Otherwise, you couldn't, because it doesn't have anything. It has a scene component, because it's mandatory for Unreal that all actors should have a root component, which is what defines the position of the actor. But a scene component is just that. Once again, it's just the position. It's the ability to be positioned in the world. It's the modular piece of logic that allows you to just have a transform, be moved, be rotated, or be scaled. In this case, scale and rotation don't show anything because there is nothing to see. So this is what a seed component is. We can delete it. To move around, by the way, I haven't explained, but I guess you guys probably figured out already. You can right-click to look around. If you left-click, it will just pane horizontally on the horizontal plane. And while you're right-clicking, you can WASD to move the camera. And if you scroll at the same time, you can increase or decrease the camera speed to go really slow or to go really fast. Okay, so essentially these are the controls to work in the editor at start. Okay, any questions so far? All good? Are we well? Nice. I don't see any questions in the chat, so let's proceed. Okay, this green button is very indicative of what it does. If we click here, we'll play the game in the editor, which will allow us to just walk around. So feel free to just walk around for a little bit. There is a jump, you can aim your camera, but pretty much what it does is this. Unreal provides us a character already animated. That's why I told you, like, these wouldn't be simple to do. It would be impossible to do on this class. For someone more advanced, maybe they could, but it's not something simple. You require a lot of assets to do this. And fortunately, Unreal provides this so you can already play around. And if you want to leave this, the game, and come back to the editor, you can just press ESC, and you're back into the editor mode. If you play again, you can also Alt-Tab, for example, to click on the stop button. And other things you can do while playing is there are a lot of controls and a lot of commands that allow you to debug things, but I'm not going to go deeply into that. I think the core thing you need to know here is there are two keys. One is pause, which essentially pauses the simulation. It helps when you want to debug a certain state. For example, you are paused in this moment, in this frame, and you can see what's going on, and you could eventually go to the blueprints or to the code and try to understand. If you click pause again, it will be back to normal. And the second is F8. If you press F8, it will unpossess or eject the controller from your character. And basically, the game is in play mode, the scene is running, game is running, but you can go around and you can click on stuff to see what's going on. And here is an example. If you click on the character, it's an example of something more complex. It's an actor that already has some components. And let me go through these with you. Does blueprint have controller movement possible by default or keyboard and mouse only after hitting play? I don't think that there might be some templates that already have controller by default, but I don't think this is the case, honestly. Unfortunately, I don't have a controller here to test. You guys can test. There are for sure some modes that already support it, and if not templates, Unreal also has on the Fab marketplace some templates that are from Epic Games, official templates for more advanced concepts that are essentially finished projects of a small scope. So you can see how they architecture things and all that. And some of them, the most recent ones, I remember maybe Game Animation Sample is one of the most recent ones where they introduced a new animation feature. I think it's already controller ready. Okay, so essentially this is plain editor. Okay, we were going through the character. Let's go through the character components because these are interesting to know about. So here, this is a pawn blueprint, and to explain what is a pawn, I think I need to explain you the core architecture of Unreal in terms of gameplay, their gameplay framework. It is purposely built to help developing multiplayer games, but here we won't be touching multiplayer at all. So I'll just tell you which classes exist that are essential and that define the rules of the game, and then eventually you can explore and we can see what those are doing. So there are 5 classes that are important to know in Unreal. Those are player controller, the player state, the game mode, the game state, and the pawn. The pawn is the thing you're seeing here. So is the thing you control, is something that you possess. It can be a character, it can be an animal, it can be a card, depending on the kind of game you want. And the character needs to be possessed by a player. The player needs to control the character. And that happens through the player controller. The player controller is an invisible actor that just exists to process inputs and to control this pawn. And there's to the player controller, there's for each player controller, there's always a player state associated, and the player state is essentially the representation of that player for other players in case of multiplayer. But it's where you save the data or the current state of the player. The name is pretty easy to understand. So the controller controls, and the player state saves the current state. It's where you would save, for example, number of coins you captured, or which level are you, some examples like that. So we have pawn, player controller, player state. Then we have the game mode, and the game mode essentially is the director of the game. Is where you can define the rules of the game. So you can define, for example, the logic of teams, if there are, or when does the game finish, for example, for more advanced. We won't be using those here. We'll be keeping this simple. But if you want to do something more complex and specify rules for a game, the game mode is the right place. And that's where everything is authored, is one of the first classes that then decides where a player should spawn, when it should die, those kind of things. And for the game mode, there's always the same. There's also the same pair. There's only one game mode in the game. In a game of Unreal, and there is the game state, which is the state of the game. So more generalized things. So how many players are playing, things that they have, and that's essentially it. Okay. So now with this, okay, sorry, I forgot again, but we were going through these components now that we know what the pawn is. So the pawn is, again, the thing you control and see in the game. And in this case, the pawn is a character. We can see it here. And as you can see it needs to have a mesh. It's not the same mesh it's not the same type of mesh that I've showed you here, which is a static mesh. A static mesh is something that is static. In this case, it's a skeletal mesh. So it's a mesh that has a skeleton, can be animated, is rigged, it has bones. That's why you can see the character moving and idling in this case. But this mesh is a common thing in games, is purely visual. So it doesn't represent the collision of the character. It's just for you to see, to be beautiful. You want a good looking character, right? But then what defines if you can pass through something, or when you overlap with something, and should you die, should you take damage from that thing, that is the capsule component. This is what rules the collisions of the character in this case. And if we open this blueprint here, I think I'll explain what a blueprint is in this case. But a blueprint is a concept that can be a lot of stuff. But it is at the same time a class from C++ for people that come from an engineering background, or a representation of an actor in this case, or a component. In this case, we are seeing the third-person character actor. So the blueprint is where we can configure this actor, and we can add some logic here as if it was a code class. And blueprints are also these visual nodes So where we can have some logic. There's already some logic here from the template, as we can see, but it's not very relevant to us. Those are the controls, essentially. And here we can see there's new sorts of windows here, right? So this thing where you have these nodes is called the event graph. You can access it here on the left part, on my blueprint, bottom left. If you double click, actually I'll leave it just so you can see. If you double click here, it brings you to the event graph where you can pull some wires and write some things, and it will have logic. We'll get there later, but this is where you can code with visual scripting until you open the blueprint for the capsule. So, okay, let's go back. I didn't open the blueprint for the capsule. It was for the component, but okay, I guess you clicked here, right? Yeah, these essentially, like, some of them say edit in Blueprint, some of them say edit in C++. This has to do with where the base of these components come from. Some of them are C++ based, some of them have already a new layer of logic in Blueprint, and that's why it appears here. But if you click on edit in C++, it will bring you to Visual Studio. We want to avoid that. We want to go to the Blueprint, so you can click on any of the components that was authored in Blueprint. Or another way is, if we pause, because I'm still in game, you can click here on this wireframe, and here is where we set. I'm sorry if I'm going back and forth, and like if you guys are lost, I'm gonna go see the comments after. Let me just get you to opening the character in the blueprints, and then I'll do some pause, read some comments, and go back to you. So here is where you can select the class, the game mode class that will rule this world. And the game mode contains which game state is going to be ruling this world, which pawn are you going to use for this world, which controller class are you going to use for this world. And so if you go here, once again, and world override game mode, it's the game mode chosen for this specific level. And pawn, this is the same blueprint I have opened, is just another way of getting there. So we are back in the same place. The other way I got there was I was in play mode. I pressed F8 and I clicked my character, and then I clicked edit in blueprint, and same place. I'm on the same blueprint. All good so far? Is everyone in the blueprints? Okay, seems like yes.
And letting you know you are 30 minutes through, so we got about an hour and a half left.
All good. Okay, so here we can see the composition of our actor, and this is the viewport of our blueprint where we can see the parts it's built up, and we can click directly on them, or we can go through them here. It's essentially the same composition as you can see here in the scene. It's just a place where you can edit it. So I guess you're familiar with these gizmos. You can move things, Control Z to bring them back. Control Z is not working, doesn't matter. We can put them back in. So going back to what each of these components do, the capsule essentially will be for the collisions. This is a simple model because obviously doing collisions with complex meshes and a lot of triangles is very costly. So the model that games do is they have a capsule usually, or a cube or something, but usually for characters is a capsule that will define the collision of that character. That's why it tries to be the bounds of the character. The arrow is just some visual thing so you can see where the actor is pointing at. It's just so you can know the forward. It's not important. It doesn't go into the game. It's just an editor thing. The mesh is where you have the skeletal mesh, which has the animations, the visual part. The collisions are not so important here unless you want to do some custom stuff with animation, like trying to plant the feet on the ground. Won't be important for us. Then we have camera boom and camera, which may also be familiar for some of you. The camera boom is just the arm or a spring arm or something that attaches the camera to your body, and you can define constraints and rules and scale it, like scale the length up and down. I'm resetting the values to not have problems. And then the camera is the camera. So when you possess the pawn, essentially there is some logic underneath that will tell that your viewport should now be the camera that belongs to this pawn, so you can see from his perspective. And then we have the character movement. The character movement component is a component that confers movement to a character. There are different types of movement components, but in this case, it's a character, so it uses a character movement component. Here you can configure speeds, acceleration. There's a lot of configurations you can play with. I'm not going to go through them all because there are honestly a lot, but you can play with them and have some fun. And then if things are wild, just reset the values. And so this is our character, essentially. And now, knowing all of these core concepts, if there are no doubts, I'll read the chat for a while. We're going to start to assemble some logical pieces to our game.
I'll throw in here that you are more than welcome to tell us that you are lost or just that you have questions or whatever. So please let us know where you're currently at. We'd love to get everybody to this point. So what would you call this deliverable, let's say, Miguel? Where should they be at this point?
So at this point, essentially, they just, I hope everyone has understood what is a character, what is the pawn, what is how to work in the scene, how to move in the scene, how to open a blueprint so you can edit stuff, and those basic controls. So you've played around, you know what you're looking at right now. You don't feel lost in the editor. If you feel lost, just let me know. I'll try to guide you so you can try to follow us. But essentially, we haven't done anything yet. We've just gone through how to open a blueprint, how to create a folder, how to move in the scene, and all that, and what is the difference between an actor and a component. So these were just concepts.
Perfect. Awesome. So everybody should have the Unreal Editor open. You should have a new world built off of that third-person view framework, and you should feel generally comfortable about what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
If you have questions, or if you're stuck during that process at all, let us know. And if you get stuck in any process at any point, please let us know in the chat, and we'll try to fix you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How different, Reaper? What does it mean different? Can they post screenshots here? By the way, I'm curious.
I believe they can. Somebody try posting a screenshot and see what happens.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, hold right click, WASD to move around. Exactly. And then you can scroll up to move faster, scroll down to move slower. That's it. All right. So I'll pay attention to you, Reaper, and if someone can help, nice. Okay, scene looks about the same. All good. Prints work. Third-person templates. Interesting.
Actually,
are you on the right version of Unreal?
I love what folks are showing off, by the way. Let's see where everybody is currently at. Post some
Yeah.
screenshots, even if you don't have a problem.
Reaper, can you make sure you're on you open the Unreal Engine 5.7.4, 5.7.4? Because I know that scene, I know that template. Let me just open these, see if I can track it while everyone posts real quick, I think. Okay. Either way, it won't be a problem. Like, you can work with that. It's fine. You just don't see the same we do, but it's not a problem. You can still work with us. Yeah, I think it might be on another version because I know that map.
I think I remember that map from working at Together Labs like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's an old one. But I think they updated this pretty recently, because not so far. I remember just opening a new project and having that old third-person template. But yeah, it's fine. We are on 5.7.4, but you can keep working on that map. Like, it won't be any issue. Like, I don't think I will enter into things that are specific to a new version. Like, most of Unreal from its 5 release until now, like, have the same features I'm gonna show. So I don't expect anything weird. And if something, just let me know if you don't find any node or any configuration that we have. But yeah, 5.7.4. Okay, so it seems like mostly everybody is in the same view as us, so we are all set. So let's start by creating something. Like, we want to create a basic platformer. So what we want here is platforms, right? If we want to create a platform, we want platforms. So for platforms, you imagine we need a new kind of blueprint, but we can do things like simple to begin with and then keep evolving. If you want to do a really, really basic platform which doesn't require opening any blueprint or touching any kind of logic, it's like you can just open these quick access and you can go to shapes and cube, and then you have a cube in the world and you can move it around, you can do whatever you want with it. Let's try to make this look like a platform. So now we have controls to change these gizmos, so we can author location, rotation, and scale. The quick accesses for these are QWE, or you can select here on this top left corner. This is to move, this is to rotate, and this is to scale. It's how you change a transform. So let's scale this. Oh, I said QWE, it's WER actually. WER, sorry for the mistake. So R is for the scale. We can scale it like this, so it looks like a platform, more or less. And let's try to move it to a location where we can reach it, because like this, I doubt we can. Yeah, we can't reach it. So let's press W and move it downwards a little bit and rotate it so it feels easier to reach. Maybe move it up a little bit more. Also, if you're having, like, you can see it's snapping a little bit, you can turn on or off the snapping here for all of the controls. This is for movement, this is for rotating, this is for scaling. If you click here, they are all toggled off when they are white. And you can see, and then you can increase the snap sizes, by the way. If we put 100, you can see big jumps. You can put just 1 for tiny corrections, or just 0. Just toggle it off, essentially, for smoother movement. Okay. Yeah, you can use 5.8. It's like they're pretty much the same. Where things change is very deeply into the engine, and we want to reach there. So it's perfectly fine. Like any Unreal Engine 5 version, pretty much. I would say even some 4, like 4.24, something like that, would pretty much work, because the concepts are the same. Like they try to, if we would go to Unreal 3, probably things would be a lot different. Okay, so we have a platform here, and we can jump to it, and we will stay. Looks good. So let's create some platforms, like a staircase, so it can reach some higher location. You don't need to be creating a new box or coming here every time you want to create a new platform. Imagine you have edited your platform, it's here, and we want to create a copy of this. Like it's already configured. We have this on the settings we want. This is the correct scale we want. So we can copy paste, Control C, Control V. It's the easiest thing. But there is another one. You can, well, while you are selecting, we have these gizmos to move. If you press Alt and then move, it will duplicate and move the actor. So it will come up with the same configurations. And it's a little bit easier. I think we can jump here. And let's put just one more. Here we go. So now if we hit play, nothing special will happen, but we can reach a new location and we have some platforms. But these platforms are pretty boring, right? They are just standing there, not doing anything. They are really easy to get. And we want to gamify these a little bit. So we need to give movement to these platforms. It's one of the ideas. And to give movement to these platforms, we need to add components. There are two ways we can make this. We can create a blueprint, or we can author this actor directly. We can add things to the actors that are here. The con here, the problem is that it will stay on this instance. So if you do some, let's say you do something really complex to this platform, like you add a bunch of components, you edit a bunch of properties here, and then you want to use this asset on any other place. And you have to, hopefully, I think it works. If you copy these to another place in the same level, it works. If you open another level, it might work, but then you close the game, you open the game, and you have to come to this level just to copy an asset. And it's not very friendly. So if you want to do it, this is a way to do it. You can add components here. You can click on the actor and you can add components here. This is a list of components that the engine already provides. And you can create more components, and the more you create, all of them will appear here. You can type search and they will appear. If we want to add another static mesh, for example, or a static mesh, and we can use the same mesh that we are using for this platform. So let me pull this up a little bit. We can copy this cube mesh. By the way, to copy properties, you can shift right mouse click. You see this illuminated, it means it copied the property. And then you can go to the new mesh you created and paste. And hey, now you have a new component on your actor. But let's not do this. Let's do it what I would say is the proper way. So let's delete all these platforms and let's create a blueprint. So in the folder we created, we're going to create a blueprint class. It's just right click in the folder and you can see it's one of the main asset types we have here. There's a bunch of assets that you can create. We want a blueprint class and we want it to be an actor. As we saw, our platforms were actors that contain a mesh component, which was the platform. And we're going to pretty much do the same, but we'll give them the ability to move around so we can have some moving platforms. So let's click create a new blueprint. Let's call it, I typed. But if you miss the renaming, you can just click on the blueprint, press F2, and you can name it something. Usually the convention is for blueprint classes, we start with blueprint and then something. Let's call it moving platform. And now we have our first blueprint. We can double click, and here we have the same exact viewport as the one from the character you're already familiar with, but this one is empty. As I told you, there's only the scene root, the default scene root, which is that component that just gives you the ability to have a location and to be moved. We want a static mesh component to have our platform. So we can start by searching static mesh component or cube. In this case, remember we pulled the cube back there in the editor. This is just a shortcut that Unreal Engine does, but essentially a cube or a plane or sphere or whatever is just a static mesh with already a configured mesh. If you want it, you can use a cube, but actually I can show you. As you can see, and if we add a static mesh just for comparison, they are all attached to each other, so we don't want that, but the cube and the static mesh, they have the same symbol, and if we hover them, you can see inside the parentheses that they all are static mesh components. Only difference is that this new one, the static mesh, if you move it from the interior of the cube, you can see it's empty because it doesn't have a mesh yet. It's a raw static mesh component. The cube already has a cube. It is painting the outline to show that it's selected. But if you copy, same thing, shift left mouse button, and if you paste it here, we can see we have our cube. The difference is the material now, but you can also come here, copy the material, here, paste material, and we have the exact same cube. So it's just a way from Unreal to make it easier for us. So we can scale our cube here and get to the same result we had previously from our platform. Let's scale it down and increase the width a little bit. And here we are pretty much on the same result we had previously. So now there are two ways we can do it. Once again, remember, first we came here, we went to shapes and dragged the cube into the scene. Now we have a blueprint. So you can either drag the blueprint to the scene, or you can come here and just type for the name of your blueprint, BP moving platform. It will be listed here automatically. And here is our blueprint, our first blueprint. So let's try to build the staircase again. I won't be perfectionist on this, but building up something that we can climb on. Let's try to see if it works. No. Either I'm bad or it needs to be lower. Yeah, it needs to be a bit lower. And this jump also. Oh, another shortcut if you want to play, I usually do it. You can press play, or you can Alt P, which it will essentially do the same. It will start the game for you. It's just a quick access. And okay, we can reach here. Now, how do we give movement to this? Has everyone done the blueprint, by the way? Any questions so far? All good?
Does everybody have a functional blueprint?
Hey.
If not, let us know.
Yeah. I'm just reading through some comments. Oh, okay. Compile and publish to Steam. Yeah, it's almost ready. Now, let's give movement to this. So the advantage of having a blueprint is that now, if you change something on your blueprint, it is essentially a template. So any change that you do inside this will propagate to all your blueprints on this scene, on other levels, and everywhere. So you can see in runtime, if I scale this, you can see you don't have to manually be scaling everything. It will control everything. So now if we give movement to our blueprint, all of them will start moving. Depending on how we configure, of course, if you want to have different configurations, because the blueprint is the template, but then remember you can always post-configure in the scene, each instance, so they have different values. And I'll show you that in a moment. So to have these moving, we could be doing our own logic. We could be playing with ticks and transforms and increasing the XYZ something. But Unreal already has a solution for this, which is pretty straightforward. You can just add a component, and the component is called interp to movement. If you type interp to movement, here it is. Essentially, it's a component that interpolates movement, and it does it to your scene root, which is to your root component, sorry, which is the root component of the actor, which defines the location of the actor, and every other component that has a location that belongs to that actor will be attached to the root. So you're moving all the actor with this component. Let's talk about settings here. I don't think you need to set anything unless you want. If you want them to be moving all in the same direction, you can configure movement here. Essentially, how this works is it has a list of control points, which are the locations that it will try to interpolate the location. And you can define as many points as you want. We'll just do something simple to have a platform panning in between 2 points. But I don't want to do it here in the blueprint because I don't want them to. I want to show you that you can have all the platforms from the same blueprint moving in different directions and doing different things, even though they are the same blueprint. They can share some configurations, and they can have some others different. Okay. So now that we have this component, let's start with this, trying to move it. First, let me rotate it to make it a little bit better, because I want to move them side by side, side to side, actually. So let's create 2 control points, because I want them to move from one side to the other. And these control points are defined, they can be defined in world locations. By the way, world locations are the locations relative to the 0, 0 in the world. If you drag a new blueprint or a new actor here, let's bring a shape, and if you reset the location, it will go to the 0, 0. This is the 0, 0 of this world. In this case, you can see by the outlines. You can, while you have something focused, you can press F to bring the camera there. But this is the definition of a world location. Relative locations are locations relative to the actor that you're dealing with in this case. So what this means when you toggle or check or uncheck this is whether you want these coordinates that you're going to put here to be relative to the world center or to this actor center, which I figure is a lot more intuitive to understand. So how do we know, like, this is XYZ, obviously, but we need to know which direction is which for this actor in particular. And the easiest way is to be on the select, on the movement gizmo, where you have these 3 arrows. And these 3 arrows are essentially the XYZ axis. They are oriented there, but they are oriented relative to the world grid. So this is the X. Okay, so a better formula so you know which axis is which. This is configured in the RGB. So I guess everyone knows what RGB is. So red, green, blue. And by this order, those stand for the X, Y, and Z. As you can see in the location, also these color indicators help you understand which axis is bound to each color. So this is the X of the world, the X axis. This is the Y axis, and this is the Z axis of the world. And we want relative coordinates. We don't want to be using world coordinates. So to change to the relative coordinates, we have this button here, which if you hover this world, it will say we are in world space coordinates right now. If you click it, it will switch the gizmos to local space coordinates. And now we can see that the gizmos are aligned with our cube, with our platform. And now this is the X of the cube, this is the Y of the cube, and this is the Z of the cube, which happens to be the same as the worlds. And now we are ready to set up some coordinates here. So we want the platform to be moving from this side to this side, doing this movement. So we'll be moving on the x coordinate. And given that the original location where, did I change this? Yeah, I might have. So be careful when you're clicking on the actor. This happens a lot of times, that you might be clicking, or you might have the cube selected and not the actor itself. And we don't want that, because then you have your cube component, you can move it independently, and then it is still attached to the actor. If you move the actor, it will move with it, but might not give you the result you want. So let's make sure we reset all of these, because I think I did it wrongly for all of them. Yeah. And we want to, okay, now I did it wrongly. So the cube should be 0, 0, 0 for the location and the rotation, but not the actor itself. So when you have these big parents selected, it can have weird values here because it's the world coordinates. The cube should be zeroed. That's essentially it. Okay, let's bring this back. Okay. And now we want to put coordinates here in the interactive movement. So as I was saying, I want to click on my actor and I want it to move from one side to another. See, I was misleading you into thinking this was the X, and no, this is the Y. So I want to move on the Y axis, which is the second one. And let's try arbitrary values. Let's say we want to move from 50 positive to minus 50. This is the duration of the movement. Let's put 5 seconds here so we can see it slowly moving. And we need to configure the speed multiplier as well. Let's start with the small speed. Or 1 actually, just to see what it does. Okay, it's moving really, really slowly. But I guess you can see it's moving. And let's put the speed multiplier a bit up. Let's put a 5 here. In 5 seconds, 50 to minus 50. And hit play. It's moving. Okay. It moved, but it stopped. Let me just do a quick pause to see if everyone is doing well. Sorry, dangling in weird ways. How do we get to an interactive movement to the object? Okay, so just a joke. Okay, so all good. Are you all set? Do you have your blueprint with the cube, with the interactive movement? And are you ready to start configuring and putting some values, or have you played with it to see the object moving? Mine is not moving. Make sure you have a duration, a speed, and local positions here. That's the core that you need. If you put too fast, wait, one thing that, as you saw, like my platform just moved and then it stopped. So if you put a speed that's too high, you'll see it. You pretty much won't see it because it will reach the destination immediately and it will stop. So to fix that, I was about to say, this is the next setting we want to tune, is the behavior type. There are 4 types of behaviors here, and they are pretty straightforward and understandable. So the one shot just goes from a location to its destination once, and it will stop. The one shot reverse will go and come back. Then we have the loop reset, which will, once it reaches the destination, it goes back to the beginning and does it again, so in a loop. And the one we want, I guess, it's the most common one in these moving platforms, is the ping pong, which will come and go infinitely. So try setting these to ping pong and see if it's moving, or if it's flickering, it's because you set up a very short distance in a short amount of time or very huge speed. Let me try to see our print. Okay, it seems to be all good. Yeah, 50 to minus 50. Try switching the one shot to the ping pong and let me know if it works for you. Oh no, Mikkel. Does it have any kind of log that you can post here? Maybe I can try to help you while I give the rest of the class. Yes, it works. Perfect. We're all set. So we have a moving platform right now. So let's make this a little bit more interesting and you can configure yours as you want. Now you know what this does, you know how to play with it, so you can put bigger values here. Let's do 100 to minus 100.
Miguel letting you know that you have a little under an hour left.
All good, thank you. Okay, and as you'd expect, or not, I don't know, because these are blueprints and we can see that the settings propagate, but in this case we edited not the blueprint, we added the instance of this blueprint in the world. So if we hit play, we see that only one of these actors or these platforms is moving. If we would have, like, if we want to copy all these properties, like the control points, for example, and put it inside of the blueprint, here to the control points. Yeah, you can copy pretty complex structures, by the way. Like you can copy an array of points, and pretty much every property is copyable. So if you have, even if you have a monstrous truck, or sorry, my cat, no, this is dangerous. Come here. Sorry guys, I present you Tiki. But yeah, I'm afraid that he's going to shut this down and then there's no class for anyone. So if we copy these values inside the blueprint and change the properties, ping pong, we were moving with a speed multiplier of 1 or 5 in this case, actually. A speed multiplier of 5 in 5 seconds. If you compile and save, you don't need, like, honestly, you don't need to compile and save. This is more like practice, because if you hit play with something uncompiled, Unreal will make sure to compile it for you. If you compiled previously, you can probably track down errors that you have that prevent you from compiling the blueprint. But now if you hit play, you can see all of them are moving exactly the same, because we changed the blueprint and not the instance. And even like this, we can override the values still. So you can come here and say, okay, I don't want this platform to move. So we can just go to the interp to movement and delete all the control points. And hopefully this is enough. Yeah. Even though this is the same blueprint, we have different values on each. No. You can stay there, but chill. Yeah. So same blueprint, different values, and you can configure, like you can have, now you can get creative. You can have a platform moving up and down, some sideways, some forward. So you can do whatever you want to have this little minigame platformer. And let's settle on these for now. So all good. Any questions so far? Was everyone able to create platform blueprints and configure all of them and understand? Super lost. Okay, where are you so far? Tell me, what's concerning you? Where did you break? How do I make the platform move? Okay. The movement of the platform comes from this interp to movement component. So in this case, what we did is we have this blueprint, which is our platform. We added the interp to movement component. I assume you have the cube already, so you have the platform. And we essentially added control points. The control points are the destinations of the platform, so positions you're gonna be going through. In this case, we go relative locations from 100 y to minus 100 y. Just go through the steps again. Yeah. Okay. Then, if you have control points, you need speed multiplier to define the speed at which this travel will happen. The duration of the travel, I put 5 seconds. And the behavior type should be ping pong, because if you put one shot, you might lose the movement at all. It just does once. One shot reverse, it goes back and forth. The loop reset will essentially loop through the control point, so it will do from here to here, from the first to the second, and then go back to the first to the second, first to the second. And the ping pong is first to second, second to first, first to second, second to first. And obviously you can put more points here. You can put as many points as you want. You can make these platforms do a loop around. So this is it. So if you have control points, if you have the behavior type ping pong, if you have speed multiplier, and if you have duration, those are the 4 properties you need. And if you compile and hit play, it should be moving. Does it work, Color Optimist? For duration, does it go through all the control points within time? I suppose maybe sorry, I can test myself. Honestly, we can test that, because I don't know from the top of my head. This is not a component I use very often, but we can try adding a new control point here just to see what's gonna happen. Let's try to put a new control point, and let's put minus 200, for example, and add a little bit of hex so we can see it moving on another direction. And positive X, right? Okay. We have the 5. Let's put 1 second so we can measure better, I think. Yeah. So the 1 second is for all the control points. Is the duration of the entire cycle, you know? This was pretty fast. If we do it, and let's put this 150 as well, and duration of 5 seconds, and you can see it doing the L shape. You see? Yeah, essentially this is it. So I think I have value set too low. Okay, nice. You were able to set it up. Perfect. No, you cannot. To switching camera to the first person. This is a configuration of this project, and this project is a third person template. So the camera will always be in third person. That's something. Oh, so my cat. To have the camera in a first person, you can try other templates. There are templates for first person shooters, and there are some other content provided by Epic that allows you to try first person things. You see, when I click edit PP in the outliner, the values are 0 in the editor comparing to the details panel. Is that normal? The platform doesn't move. Oh, you mean the details panel? If it's normal that you have different values, what matters, what rules, is what you have in the world. I'm sorry, I have to take the water here. They'll stay in my lap. Okay, so it's normal that you have different values, because as I was guiding you how to edit the instances, and you can edit the instances individually, and what rules is the values you have in the world. So the values in the blueprint can all be zeroed, and you'll still have movement if you have values in this component that's in the actor, that's in the world. This is what is red. So if you have, you can have like all the points, the control points configured in the blueprint. So the same happens the other way around. If you have the values configured in the blueprint, but you reset them in the instance in the world, you won't see any kind of movement. And if you have the values zeroed in the editor and then you override them to have values in the world, it will move. What matters is what is in the instance that's present in the world. Exactly. The blueprint is essentially a template, but then you can override the template. You can insert custom parameters and different stuff, and you can have blueprints, even though they share the same template and the same base. You can have them behaving slightly differently, but they are still a good starting point. So you can propagate changes that are common, and then create variation within the level. Okay. Okay, all good so far. Okay, now we have the platforms, but we need a goal, right? We need something to get to something, to have some kind of goal on this game. So let's create, let's put a platform that's unmovable here, just to be our goal, and then we'll create an end game condition in this case. It will be a very basic thing, but essentially something that once we get to this place, our game will end and we'll reset. So we'll start from the beginning. Let me rotate this. Okay. Now it's when we are starting to play with collisions. So let me just remove these values because I don't want this to move at all. I just want it to stay still, and let's confirm. Okay, so we want to reach there and essentially have our game finish and reset back to the original position. So for that, let's try to break down the steps of what we want to do. Essentially, we need to have some kind of event or some kind of thing that tells us that we reached that location, and something needs to happen when we do it. So first, how will we determine how did we reach the desired location? Second, how to program or define this logic of, okay, the game ended, what will happen now? We need to be, let's do something quick and simple. So let's just teleport us back to the initial location. Similarly to, we are playing a new instance of the game. We just reset. Okay. To decide or to find out that we reached a certain location, we need to play with collisions. We need some kind of volume, that a trigger that tells us, okay, you reached this location. Oh, my cat is really annoying today. we need some kind of volume that tells us we reached this location, and then something should happen. I guess if you guessed that we need a new blueprint, you were right, certainly, because if we need something that is in the world, it will certainly be a blueprint. So we can start with what's familiar to us already, and we need a new actor for this, and we'll call it BP and game volume. Okay, we are back at this beautiful window, and our actor is empty, and now we need a new kind of component, because what we need is just a collision, not a collision that will stop us from getting there, but a collision that will detect when we enter there. So it's not a mesh, because a mesh has a collision, but it will block us. It will be a volume in this case. Oh, I think it's not called volume, it's called box. Yeah, a box collision. So a box collision is just what it says exactly. It's this box collision. It doesn't collide with you. We can put this in the world now that we have our BP and game volume. We can see that nothing will happen. We won't even see it. If you drag it here, let's put it like, we can increase the scale here just so you can see it better. Let me get close to it. And as you can see it here, while you're in the editor, you can see it, but the moment you hit play, it's nothing, because it's just a volume. So it doesn't have a physical body per se, or something that you would collide with. It is here. I'm overlapping with it. I'm stepping on top of it, but nothing happens. And this happens because of the collisions that are set up for these, which are overlap all dynamic. There are, like, collision presets are essentially configurations for the collision of an object, where you can define whether something can pass through, or something overlaps and reacts to it, or just blocks like a mesh. If you see the collision of a mesh, because every physical body has a collision, you can open the collisions for this cube mesh, and you can see block all dynamic is the preset. There are a lot of presets that come with Unreal already, and you can create more. You can create custom ones for your project's needs. And in the collision profile, essentially you define the type of object, the type of collision that you want, whether you want it to have physics enabled or disabled, or just overlap but not block, or block and overlap, depending on which kind of object is trying to collide with. And then you define the collision matrix against every type of object in your game. So we won't need to create any new collision preset. The default ones are good for this. And yeah, here we can see, just so we can read this collision profile and I can explain it better to you. Physics, collision. Oh, on the box. Sorry, you need to select the component. So the overlap all dynamic, essentially what it's saying is that it will overlap with all kinds of objects. It doesn't, no matter what. So the 3 columns here are exactly those 3 types of responses. Ignore is just, it doesn't do anything. The overlap, if it has the generate overlap events, will fire an event on overlap, which means when something entered that volume, it will notify something and fire an event, and then we can handle that event and do something there. And the block is literally a physical block. You cannot pass through. And this is overlapping with anything, so we don't even need to check. But if we were on a more complex scenario, just so you understand what's going on here and you can read, to understand whether the character, because we want an overlap, we want to enter that zone and we want to get notified, we want our character, we need to know the type of collision that our character has, so we can know how this object is responding to it. So we can see there are these kinds of objects here, and they are all overlap. But if they weren't, and if we had something like this, for example, or something more custom, we would need to know which kind of object are we dealing with, so we can read the response and play with it. So our character, if you remember, you can go here on the game mode and pawn, open the pawn. And remember when I told you the thing that orders the collision is the capsule component? We need to click on the capsule component and see our collision properties. You can type, it might be easier. And what matters here is the object type. So our character, its capsule component, its object type is pawn. So we can go here to our endgame volume, to our box, and confirm that pawn needs to be overlapping with, actually this profile needs to be overlapping with pawn. So if we check, it's like all of them are overlap, but just in case, pawn is overlap. So the response to any pawn that would try to enter here is an overlap. So we are set, all good. Any questions so far regarding collision profiles and how collisions work? We just to summarize, only thing we've done is we created the endgame volume and we added a box. Just it. The default profile will be already overlap all dynamic. You don't need to change anything here. It's fine as it is. I just wanted you to understand, like, how can you read a collision preset, and for things that are more complex or more customized, how to understand exactly what's going on here. So if all is well, let's proceed. We know that our character is overlapping with this box, but now we need to do something with it. So this is the first time we'll start to actually implement some logic with blueprints, because we need to handle this event. We need to know that we overlapped, and with it, we need to transport the player to the start, in this case, to our initial start spot. So there are various ways to do this. I'll go with the easiest one, so you don't have to, like, let's try to keep the wires and nodes as minimal as possible. We'll need to do some here, but essentially I'll reduce 2 or 3 with this. You can right click on the box and add event, because the box is what will receive the events of the overlap, and we want on component begin overlap. So once again, on our box, the list of components, our box, add event, add on component begin overlap. And this node event will spawn. And let's just try something quick so you can see what's going on here. Let's try to print a string message. It says hello by default, but let's say we overlapped. Overlapped. I'm dyslexic. We overlapped. And just as it is, without anything, this should be working. And we should see a message in the top left of the screen once we step on the volume. See? Every time we step on the volume, we get the we overlapped message, which means we are handling the collisions well, we are receiving the event, everything is working as intended. So far, so good. Back to square one. Yeah. Who doesn't love blueprints? Okay. But a message is not enough, and we need to bring the player back to his original position. So here we're gonna have to cast some nodes, and let me try to explain you exactly what's going on here. So every time we receive this overlap event, as you can see, there are a bunch of pins here. We don't need all of this. Essentially what we need, because we are creating logic on the volume doesn't know what the player is, and what we need to transport and move is the player. So we need to get some reference to the player. And if you see here on the overlap event node, we have the other actor pin, which will give us that actor. If essentially, like, every time something overlaps with this will fire and will carry the actor that overlapped with, so we can run some logic based on that. So let's say we want to save this actor, essentially. So let's do a promote to variable. The moment you drag this pin with the left mouse button, one of the first options you have is a promote to variable. Essentially, we are saving this actor, so later on we can do something with it. We are saving this variable, and it is called other actor. You can say our actor, something like this, trying to keep the names descriptive so you know what you're working with. And we need to do something to this actor, right? We need to move it. And now you can drag from this pin, which reads the variable, essentially, or you can have your list of variables on the bottom left corner on this part of the blueprint, and you can also drag it from here. And we want to get, which is accessing the value that is there. These are the same, essentially, or just two ways of doing the same thing. And we want to set its location. Set location. Set world location. Set actor transform, my bad. It depending on whether you're, like, the names can go crazy in Unreal, and I'm sorry for it, but on components it's world location, on actors it's actor location. So in this case, let's do the transform, just so I can explain you what is a transform, because we want to change location, rotation. We don't need to change the scale, but location and rotation almost for sure we need to set it on the actor. A transform is essentially the combination of these three things we've been playing with: the movement, rotation, and scale. So those are what define where an actor is in the world, how it is shaped and scaled. And that's what we need to set to something, but we don't know what this something is. So let's go to our map and we'll see something interesting, because when we hit play, okay, I have some compilation error, which is good because I didn't finish logic. So you see, that's why compiling sometimes is very helpful.
Miguel,
Let me
you
just
got about
disconnect
30
this
minutes
screen.
left. Sorry, 30 minutes left.
Okay, all good. Thank you. Yeah, okay. What I just did here is Alt, left mouse click to disconnect a wire, Alt, over, left mouse click, and now if you compile, you won't have any errors. Essentially, these need some values to work, and I don't have those values yet. That's what I'm about to show you. So I want it disconnected to not give any errors, and I want to be able to play. So the moment we hit play, we are spawning on a place, right? It's not random. We can hit play as many times as we want. I can be really, really far away, and the location and the rotation are always the same. So we need to have something that already tells us this, right? And in this case, we can see it with this funny controller. If we click it, this is a blueprint, or an actor blueprint, which is called player start. And the player start is what defines where we start within the level. I can move it to here and hit play, and I'll start on another place. And that's how Unreal knows where to spawn the character in the beginning. So what we need essentially is to bring back the player to this location, to the player start location. And since this is an actor, it already has a transform, it already has a location, rotation, and scale, and it's everything we want, because we want to bring our actor to this exact location. So we need to look for this somehow in our code, because we don't have the reference. So here we know we have our actor already after the overlap, and we need to feed it with a transform. And we know the transform we need is in that actor at the player start. So how do we find the player start? If you right mouse click in this grid of the blueprint, you can search for nodes, and the node we want is get all actors of class. And we want to get all player starts we have in the world. In this case, it's just one. It could be many, and we would be having to need some other kind of logic to filter, or we would just pick a random one. But since we only have one, it should be fine. And we can hit player start as actor class, and these will return us the list of all actors with this class, or that are from this class, that are present and spawned in the world. We can connect these wires here, and we need to read the result. Since this is an array, it's a list of various actors, we just don't want one. We can type get. This node is what we want, get a copy. And we want the index 0, which is the first index, is the only one will be filled. And I won't even bother to validate it. Usually, if you were working on a real project, you would need to come here and type is valid. So not is valid, there are two is valids. You ignore this step, it's just for me to letting you know. And if the player start is valid, we'll perform some logic. If it's not valid, we just throw an error, a message or something, because we don't have a valid player start. But I trust that we'll have a player start for this, so I won't even bother to validate it. Don't do this at home, kids. And we want, so here this pin is an actor, and we know it. It's an actor from this class, and we know that actors have this transform property, because we are setting a transform from an actor. So here we need to get the transform from an actor. So how do we do it? Is get actor transform, and voila. If we connect this here, we have, hopefully, we have this working as intended. Let me just break down again what is a transform for you, just to recall. Like, a transform is these structs, like it's nice that they have color so you can easily identify what's going on, but you can break structs into their substructs, and we have seen that transforms are composed of location, rotation, and scale. So if we drag from here and hit break, we can see exactly that. So the transform structure, for those familiar with programming, is a location, a rotation, and a scale, which on their own, like each location is composed of their axes, and you can keep breaking into X, Y, Z. The rotation, same, scale, same. So if you wanted to do something more customized, like you want to spawn at the player start transform but higher, you could do it like this, breaking the transform apart and adding values, but blah, blah, blah. Let's see if this works first. About these properties, you can ignore them pretty much. Like sweep has to do with, both of them has to do with physics, which we don't need. We can use just the default thing. And recalling what we are doing here, when we overlap with this thing here, with this box, we'll save our actor. We will get all the player starts in the world. In this case, we just have one. So we read the first value from there. We read the transform from that actor in the world, and we set that transform to our actor. If we hit compile and save and play and go, as you can see, the moment we enter this capsule, we are brought back to the original location and the start. And this is how we finish our game loop with core features. Let me just do a quick pause here. Everyone has been successful on doing this. Has everybody understood what we did? Too much blueprints? Do you want more blueprints? Okay. All good. Nice. So many nodes. You're welcome to Unreal. Hopefully you'll have a lot more nodes in your life. I hope you stick with this. You set the actor location in this example. If I wanted to make the actor bounce, like Sonic the Hedgehog jumping on a spring, what would you use to spring them upward? So there are some ways, but you would be using forces. And it depends. Like, I don't know how Sonic does it. Honestly, I'm not seeing if you're specifying any game, that any specific game, but it could be animation. Essentially, but it could just be that the animation makes a jump, but the actor never leaves its place, because as you can see, like if I hit play, my character is moving. Like, it's not, in this case it isn't actually leaving place, but you can see that the ends are moving, and it could be doing some more complex stuff, but it could essentially have an animation that just plays that spring thing that you want, and the actor actually never leaving its place, and it's just a skeletal mesh going up and down. Or you could just add force. You could just add jump force to make it jump. There are a few nodes for that, but I don't want to get into too much physics here, because yeah. I mean, let me see if we can just do it straightforward from this, because this can go really wrong. At feedback component, I guess you need some components to alter physics in the character. And yeah, first I just want to make sure that everyone is settled and good, and then we can probably go to more complex stuff. Okay, can some player model? Can the same player model be used for enemies and NPCs? For sure, yeah. Like you could essentially see this third person character is a blueprint itself, so you can do with it whatever you want. Like you can drag as many players as you want here. They won't have any NPC behavior. That's also a bit more complex. But if you hit play, they'll just stand here. They'll probably be animated. Yeah, they are animating. So you can use the same model or the same blueprint. Depending on the game, it might be advised or not to use the same blueprint, because what matters is that, remember when I explained to you in the beginning that we have a player controller that is controlling our pawn, the character is the pawn. You can reuse the same pawn for the enemies. What differs is that the enemies are controlled by an AI controller. That's what changes, and the AI controller then has a brain which takes decisions for them, and you can change states. Those doppelgangers, yeah. Are there models for animals and creatures? I recommend you guys take a look at Fab. Type in the chat, FAB. So the Fab is a marketplace. Now it's unified, I think, across all engines, but you can find a lot of free stuff there, from models to actual plugins with logic that help you build the game. So, and it also has a lot of content from Epic Games itself. If you want to explore more advanced content, like let me just put this on the correct place. Like I was not important, but let's finish our game and then we can go into conversation. Just 1 second. I didn't forget that I want to talk about Fab, but okay. This is our run, our basic run. We have done some platforms and we have a goal location, which when we reach it, we reset and get back to the very beginning. And I hope everyone has completed this step and has understood. If you have any doubts, let me know. And I'll be answering some questions from the chat. Okay, so we were talking about Fab. Fab is a marketplace. I think it's unified, but it has a lot of content, and there is content from Epic Games itself with pretty advanced projects. Like they develop essentially small scope projects that you can use to learn new concepts and new tools that they developed, so you can understand how they want you to architecture things in Unreal, because in Unity things are not as much like this, like in the sense that you develop your own architecture. Here you can do it for the specialized systems, but you should avoid trying to fight against the engine. So the engine has a core architecture and there's a lot of systems. So before trying to do something, I recommend you guys search what solution does the engine already have, if there is any gameplay sample from Epic Games that already is doing what we want, and try to look for those, because before trying to implement something, we want to see if it exists and not fight against the engine, because the engine provides us a lot of stuff. Making the character go to the next level, that's a pretty simple one. Essentially, like we have levels here, and like this is the core of a gameplay loop I wanted to show you, and I have more things planned, but since we are almost on the end, I think I'll just stay answering your questions and hopefully you feel enlightened. Let's just save this content. You can create new levels by doing file new level. It's relatively easy. The open worlds have a lot of extra complexity. Essentially, this world that we are in is not an open world, is a development from a basic world, and so let's go with that, which is more simple, more lightweight. And after creating it, we can save the world here. Let's put it in our class folder, and it is a new map. Save. it has a player start already, so it should be good. So if everything is well, because sometimes these templates have some weird rules written in the code, and we have to do workarounds, but moving to another level is essentially just opening that level. Okay, sorry. Let's just try it so you guys see what happens. Travel. Oh, don't tell me we cannot travel from open level, maybe. Open level by name, exactly. So let's say we want to discard all this logic and just once we get to that spot, open a new level. We need to know the level name, and the level name is new map in my case. So new map. And if we go back,
Yeah, 15 minutes left, Miguel.
all right. So we can go to our recent levels, or where is the level now? I need to find where is the startup level. Level third person. Okay, it's here in the content third person, blueprints, level third person. In the game volume, we can save it, okay, because we just changed it. And if we hit play and go all across to our end game volume, voila, we successfully teleported to a new level. And it already has the character. Okay, I wasn't expecting this, but I think they set as the core of the project. Yeah, in the project settings, they already set the character and the game mode and all that, because if you haven't configured, let me just show you what would happen. If I select an override game mode class of none, did I do it on the custom level? Or did I do it here? Oh, okay. If the world override is none, it will fall back to the project settings. If on the project settings, in this case, let's just remove the character, I guess, and put none, which is pretty much what would happen. You see, you wouldn't be able to control anything because you don't have a pawn. And I wonder if you don't have a game mode, it will be like a bit worse. Probably you'll be spawning a camera that you can fly around. So it's important when you set up a new map to click here and override if there isn't a valid project settings game mode, which defines the pawn and the controller that you have and how you receive the inputs and so on, which is already stuff that the template provides for you. It's important that you should override to use that game mode so you can have the character and control it and receiving inputs. So this is it. That's epic. Okay. It notes like the bits. Yeah, actually, it was even easier. Tell me how you guys feel, but I feel like it was even easier to just teleport us to a new world than actually resetting the player back to his original starting spot. But I also wanted you to understand how we can achieve this, how we can just move the player from one side to another, and where is a player start. So you have that knowledge, and like this, you already messed with some blueprints, and I guess the hardest part is just the beginning. So after you've messed with it, you're hopefully a little bit more comfortable, and you can just drag some pins and put some nodes, and you'll do fantastic things. I learned Blueprint language, but I noticed it can become a bit clunky. I don't know much C++, but I know the basics of coding languages thanks to my learning of PHP. There are so many tutorials on the net, it's hard to find a good one. So C++, honestly, I don't know if I have a good tutorial for you to learn C++. I think this is like if you are familiar with programming and you know how blueprints work, I guess this is just a matter of exploring. That like, don't get me wrong, there might be very good channels. I'm just telling like my experience and how I did it. Is just try to understand what's underneath, like what this is doing. If you were, or actually maybe I can do it for you. Like if you have Visual Studio and if you have the engine, if you double click a node, it will try to open the C++. I wonder why it failed, because probably I don't have this project. This project is not a C++ project, so probably it doesn't connect very well, and I need to change some configurations. But you can type in the AI, or you can just search some tutorials for this, and this will bring you to the exact implementation, because none of these nodes are magic. Like all that's like, it's C++ that's creating these nodes. Underneath, this is all C++, or another blueprint. It can be another blueprint, but underneath that blueprint, there will always be C++. So you can double click, it will open the file, and you can understand what's going on. And with time, you'll feel more and more comfortable to just explore the C++ side of this. And eventually you can be creating your own classes there. Like you can start simple, creating like the same thing we did with the blueprint. You can do like create a C++ class, which is an actor. Let's say we would be creating like a endgame volume actor. Then you can do like, when you're creating a new blueprint, we need to go to the class, blueprint class. You can open the all classes. We haven't opened these, but this essentially has all the classes that exist in the engine, including the ones that you've created yourself. So custom things will appear here, and you would be selecting here the endgame volume class that you just created, and you could extend it in Blueprint. Blueprints are nothing more than an extension to the code. So every piece of blueprint that you can see has a base in code, and you can do the same on your project. You can start by creating at least a base, and trust me, this will give you a lot more control in the future, because eventually you'll figure out that some node or some functionality isn't exposed in blueprints and doesn't work, and you can go to the code and do that feature. Or you can just ignore the code, but at least you have the base class, so you are one step closer to going through that barrier. What would be a good first project to attempt for practice or shadow homework? I'd say a project that gets you excited, honestly. Like on these kind of things, like, you see, this is a slow journey, and like you need to go step by step. So trying to keep yourself motivated. If you are building something you don't like or doesn't bring you joy, it's easy for you to just quit. It happened to me a lot of times on different kinds of things in game development as well. So pick up a project you like, try to clone some features, try to start simple, like search for the tutorials. I think anything is achievable. You can reduce the complexity. Obviously, if you see some really complex animation, like, you don't need that, but you can tune it down to the level you are at and try to replicate it. Dark Souls, yeah, Dark Souls clone would be wild. Honestly, most tutorials with good rating will be fine. Focus on tutorials specific in your version of Unreal, and maybe following a type of game you want to make. Exactly, yeah, that's the core, because there are a lot of content out there. And like, I don't know if you guys had experience talking with AI chatbots. Like, they are getting really good at telling you stuff that's accurate. Like, I've been trying to use it for a long time, like at least since 2023. It was really bad. Like, it was a waste of time to even try to argue and ask something to the AI. Nowadays, if you want to make a feature, you can ask it, oh, is there a solution for this? And I bet like 95% of the time it will give you the good direction, and then you can search in the engine where that is, what it does, and try to construct the nodes along. Like, it is a really, it boosts your learning. So we are almost 5 minutes away from the end. I don't know if Willem wants to give some last words, or I'll be happy to keep answering questions.
Amazing. Yes. I was kind of hoping my cat would be here. Wait, let's see. Fez. He's sitting on the next desk over. Come here, buddy. He's got a stretch. Everybody understands how cats work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. If there's any last questions, please drop them in the chat. We can answer them here. Here is Fez. This boy is about 12 years old.
Cute.
He's my original mentor, we'll say. He's a very good man. If anybody has any last questions, we can absolutely drop them in the chat and get them answered. I think that last question, which is what do I do next? What's the next step? Is a really good one. I agree with you, Miguel. I think there's an infinite number of things that you can make. One of my favorite game design mentors talks about how whenever you enter the design process, it's tough because you could literally make an infinite number of possible games. So it can be a little daunting where you go, what you build next. But in my opinion, the best way to learn is to pick a game and build it. It's definitely valuable for you to learn some very specific behavior or something. Maybe you want to figure out how to write code to create a flocking component or something like that. But in my opinion, when you are excited to get something done, that's the most likely for you to get it done. So I'd recommend you pick a game that you're excited about and you build it. If you don't care too much about finishing the game, do whatever the hell you want and build it. If you do want to make sure you finish a game, which I think is the most valuable for your portfolio and for making you more likely to succeed as a founder, then do be thoughtful about scope. So try not to... Probably don't build a Dark Souls, but maybe build like a Dark Souls arena or something like that. You know, try to be thoughtful about how much time it's going to take you, and set yourself time boxes when you do so. So I'm going to spend 3 months on this project. I'm going to spend a year on this project, however long you think it'll take, and then stick to that time box as best as you can, because that simple ability is actually a hugely practicable skill, is incredibly valuable for you as a founder or as a contributor. So that would be my final word. It looks like you've got a couple last questions, and then we'll release you, Miguel, into the ether.
Okay, let me see what we have here. So about setting up the level change, I think you're already answered, which is good. People got it. Amazing. You can set up those nodes. About verse and blueprints being deprecated, so I don't have a clear option. You know, that topic is a little bit controversial. It's hard to know exactly in which direction Unreal is trying to go. I guess that they are trying to push verse and deprecate blueprints just so they can have better AI workflows. Because right now it's really hard to have AI doing something with blueprints. But they will for sure, and this is certain, they will have some kind of blueprints in their new version, because they are really useful. Like, you cannot do a game without them, because blueprints are essentially a tool and allow you to create infinite tools within the engine, so that in a big game, you can have programmers creating these little blueprint tools, and then have designers contributing to the game at accelerated pace. And not only that, like, there are like animation is like, altering animation graphs is blueprints underneath. So all of those design configurations and those mini tools and all that, like, it's really important to have a way of visual scripting. We cannot live without it right now.
Yeah, I was curious, actually. I went and looked it up. They are talking about deprecating blueprints, but the plan isn't like we hit Unreal 6 and now we don't have blueprints. The plan is that they introduce their AI agent, and that lives simultaneously with blueprints, and that the only time they would actually deprecate blueprints, remove it from Unreal, is when they feel it is time to do so. So I would guarantee that even if the AI tooling was like perfect, we would still have blueprints for a couple of years. But for those who have messed with AI enough, you know that it is super powerful, and I do actually encourage, especially with code, people to play with AI. Don't steal people's assets is really the biggest thing. But using it for code, I think, is pretty kosher these days. Incredibly powerful. Mess with it, yes, but if you have already messed with it, you know that it's pretty limited. So I kind of bet that they aren't going to wind up removing blueprints anytime soon, or it'll wind up being some new version of blueprints that has AI as a, like, under the hood or something like that. It's, as you suggest, Miguel, like, it's just so useful, and it doesn't make any sense to remove it. So, yeah, I think don't worry about it too much. and use blueprints for now. And if it starts looking more and more like they actually will remove it, then you can learn the next thing. As you make games, you'll find like flowing into the next tool set to be less and less of an issue anyway.
Yeah, you always carry a lot of knowledge. Like there's a lot of things you can transport from engine to engine or from pipeline to pipeline. So
Amazing.
it's always useful.
Here, how about this is the last question? This is from James. What is your favorite Unreal feature, Miguel?
Interesting. I like it's one I haven't messed with a lot, but I tend to like PCG a lot, procedural generation content. So I think that tool is really, really powerful, and I wish I would have more time to play with it because you can do amazing things.
Yeah, Proc10 is really cool. Awesome. All right, so here's what we'll do. First of all, I have a class that I'm teaching personally tomorrow night. It's an oldie but a goodie. I've been running this class for a long time. It's about specifically paper prototyping. So if you want to come and talk about how to make a prototype for a game in under an hour, you'll actually literally do one with me. Come and join me tomorrow night, actually in the Work with Indies Discord, one of our partners. Otherwise, in just a moment, I will be talking about the Level 3 program that we have starting in September. It's an abridged, a shortened version of the Level 3 that we've run in the past, and it's more meant for beginners. So it's people who want to get their first portfolio project done, finished, released with a team. I'll spend about 10 minutes talking about how that actually works. So if you want to hear about the Level 3 program, hang out. Otherwise, why don't we say goodbye to Miguel? I would love to see some celebratory gifs emojis. Thank you for being here, Miguel. It's been fantastic to have you.
Thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Here, let's give you 1 second. There we go. Couple of thank yous. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. All right, sweet. So Miguel, you can take off as you wish. We will be sending out an email to those who signed up on Eventbrite with the link to the recording, this very recording. And I'll drop it for those who didn't sign up on Eventbrite who are just here from the Discord. I'll drop it in announcements probably tomorrow alongside when I send that email. So you'll get access to the recording if you got lost at some point or something like that. Maybe Miguel, do you want to drop maybe your LinkedIn so people can hook up with you?
Yeah, I can drop it here. Or actually, I'll leave my personal website and you can reach all my contacts there.
Perfect. Everybody harass Miguel. Everybody dox Miguel.
Yeah, feel free.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, then thank you, Miguel. And we'll see you around soon. We'll run another one.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Awesome. Okay, so if anybody wants to hear about Level 3, I'm going to talk about it for approximately 10 minutes. If you would like to find out next steps, launch a game with the team, I'm going to talk for just a few minutes about that. For those who may know what Level 3 is already, this is slightly different. This is a new version of the program. It is pretty much the same thing that we've run before. The major difference is that it is shorter. And I'll talk about why we're doing that right now, I guess. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Indie Game Academy. There we go. This is always a problem. Hold on. It does this weird, like, partial full screen if I don't share my entire screen. So here is my entire screen. Okay, there we go. All right, can everybody see this okay? Let's talk Level 3. Oh, the cat was the best part for sure. All right, welcome everybody to Indie Game Academy. Y'all probably know who we are if you're here in the Discord with us, but we are an online school dedicated to turning students into game developers and game developers into indie studio founders. We are on a perpetual quest to help game devs pave their own path through the game industry, and we do this through a 3-level system. These are our 3 levels, as mentioned just a moment ago. Level 1 is a weekend-long boot camp. It is meant to be an intro to the game industry, so hey, how does games work? How do they get built at all? Let's build a game and learn from a couple of smart people. Level 2 is our intermediate course for those who need some technical foundations, and then Level 3 is your first launch with a team. This is the program that we're actually most known for. We've been running this for about 4 years now. And it is meant to give people a platform to finish a game under the guidance of industry professionals with a team and then launch that game out there so that you have a portfolio project, your first project in the pipeline as a studio, whatever the heck else you might use that project for. We also, year before last, at the end of 2024, we launched the Indie Game Foundry, which is our little baby publishing arm. You can look up our first 3 games. The Box is Alive, Daughter of the Rift and Whiskers, Wizards, and Wands. We have very exciting announcements actually with Foundry coming soon. Should be announced next month. We'll be starting a brand new way of how we handle Foundry that we think handles the insanity of our industry dramatically better than the first version we put together. So we'll talk about that another day. Today, we're talking about level 3. So if you don't know us, these are the 3 things that we attempt to do above all other programs out there. Number 1 is interdisciplinary teamwork. So we're not really a technical institution. Obviously, we just got an intro to Unreal. But what we care about is getting you together with teams, helping you launch games, and having a great time doing it. We believe that that's the best way for you to build your technical foundation and your cred as a founder, which is what we really want all of you to do one day. A fun fact for everybody that I have been espousing as often as I can. 10 years ago, indie games made up less than 1% of global revenue made by games. Today, indie games make up 3% of global revenue made by games. That's actually a pretty staggering increase, especially given how awful the industry has been for the past 5 years. I believe that indies are very much the future. So who am I? If you don't know who I am Willem Delventhal. I am the headmaster here at the Indie Game Academy. I'm the original founder. I founded this school about 5 years ago. And I am just a designer and originally actually an engineer in the game industry. Currently, I'm design director at Mod Collective, Modco Studios. We are a startup that launched about 3 years ago that's pretty interesting. Basically, we do DLC for other people. So we get hired to make DLC and launch that DLC for third-party games, which has been really cool because I get to touch a bunch of different types of games. I've also been a game designer at Paradox Interactive. I was an engineer at Lumosity. I worked at Together Labs. I launched my own indie studio called the Delve Bros, where we launched a board game that may or may not be somewhere over here. It's my stack of board games, but it's not easy to get to. We launched a tabletop RPG. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've touched a lot of spaces in the game industry. And I'm primarily really a designer and a little bit of a project manager these days, I guess. These are some of the games I've worked on. I tend to work in the casual and educational genres. I've wound up working on a lot of life sims randomly, so I make cute things where you torture your characters. That in the bottom left is the first game I ever made that got bought. That is Quick Draw Rangers that was bought by addictinggames.com for a whole $500 when I was 15 years old. It's the catalyst that got me to make games and believe that it was something more serious than just a casual hobby. Our mission at the Indie Game Academy is to bring about a new golden age in the game industry where all indie developers are able to financially support themselves by making games. We think this is possible, and I personally want to see indie games take up 10% market share of how much money the whole industry is making. We've basically plateaued as an industry globally since 2021-ish. We haven't really made any more money, but indie games somehow are making more. So level 3 is our solution to help those who are not quite steady yet launch their first games. It is a guided 2-month, used to be 4 months. It is a guided 2-month production cycle where students will build an original game with a team under the guidance of industry experts. So the whole idea is you go from brand new start to finish. We actually brainstorm together, we prototype together, and then you bring that game out and actually launch it at the end of the 2 months. We meet twice a week online, live online classes, so you have actual humans that you're talking to, and they can answer your questions there in real life. Or I guess not real life, but you know what I mean. It's not a recorded class. It's not another one of those. You receive a full 2-hour lecture plus workshop from 5 industry veterans. And we are changing who those people are. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. Then you launch an original game to itch.io, fully completed game. You finish with a live pitch night to real publishers and industry figures. This is a staple of level 3 that we've done since the very beginning. So the very last night is an actual pitch night with actual publishers there who are listening to your game concepts. And then you leave with everything you need to build your next big game and possibly even your own game studio. So a couple of core changes, if you do know the program from the past. Here's the fundamental shifts. Number 1, we're going from what used to be 7 professors to 5. And those 5 professors are talking about studio management a little bit more and just like function of building a game a little bit less. And the reason for that is because we want to help people launch studios. So we will have somebody who's talking about budgeting for the first time. We'll have somebody who's talking about marketing. We have talked about that before, but it's going to be more of a focus. And we'll have somebody talking about funding for the first time. So we're going to talk about getting funding either through crowdfunding or through a publisher. It's 2 months instead of 4, and that's mostly because indies are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Freaking Mecha Chameleon Does everybody know how much money Mecha Chameleon has made so far? Guess in the chat how much money Mecha Chameleon has made. And that game was made by 2 guys in 2 months, especially with actually the power of AI for that matter, and just the shifting industry and the shifting buyer psychology. Sir Intelligence, yes, you're right. They did indeed make more than $1. Just the amount of time we spend on our games is getting shorter and shorter, and so we decided to shorten our program and simplify it and make it a little bit more sort of beginner friendly. It's about getting that first game out, and then for those who want to actually launch a studio, that's what our publishing arm Foundry is for. So Mecha Chameleon has made almost $100 million now, which is insane. 2 guys in 2 months made $100 million. This is my favorite comparison. Star Wars Rebels was made in 4 years by 600 people, and it cost $300 million, and it has also made about $100 million. Insanity. So indies are one of the only sectors in games that's still growing, and what we're seeing indies do is they're focusing on these delightful, wonderful, small experiences, and that's what's working best for buyers right now. By the end of the program, you're going to be ready to pitch. The whole idea is that we want your game to be ready to pitch to actual publishers. Classes are about getting the reps. So test your team, test your game. If you don't like your team, cool, move on to the next team. If you don't like your game, cool, move on to the next game. If you like them both, hell yeah, launch a studio. And finally, scholarships are now a lottery. We used to do a whole system where we would read every single entry and try to decide who best deserved a scholarship. And we wound up deciding that that introduces bias. And so scholarships are now strictly a lottery system. If you ask for a scholarship, you're added to the pool. You may randomly be selected for a scholarship. All right. I have this quote that I've always loved from the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Schell. He's the guy who wrote The Art of Game Design, which is one of the first sort of well-respected game design textbooks. And he says, your first 10 games are going to suck, so you might as well get them out of the way as fast as possible. That's what Level 3 does best. Out of 42 games that have gone through our program, 40 of them have launched. We are good at cracking the whip and making sure you get your game done and solving problems with you until your game is finished and launched. I'd love to hear in the chat, maybe, what's a game that you've always wanted to make? What's a game you've always wanted to make? I have one myself called Under the Violet Moon, where I really want to make a sort of Chrono Trigger-like JRPG where you have a Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon-like town that continues to exist as you're gone. So time actually passes while you're out on your adventure, and when you come back, the world has changed. You actually need to stock up on provisions, so your townsfolk growing food for you while you're gone, and then stuff happens while you're gone. So you might come back and your favorite townsfolk have been kidnapped or something like that. So it's all this, telling this story of being out on your adventure, but the sacrifices that your family, your friends, your community have to make to send you out on that adventure. All of them. Star Citizen? You're gonna make Star Citizen, Pixel? Well, you better start now. Connor is making I Have to Have Pizza or I'll Explode best game of the year, 100%. Similar quote, I love your screenwriting. Write your first screenplay, then bury in the backyard and write your first screenplay. I love that, James. Awesome, yes. So many great games. So this program, you will probably not make that game. I'm not going to make Under the Violet Moon. It would take me 4 years to make Under the Violet Moon, I would estimate. This program is not about making your dream game. This program is about making a proficient, solid game that you finish with a team in 2 months. We crack the whip, you get instructors who are there to help you make the best game that you can in 2 months, and then you get it done and you move on. This is a video I love showing off. Oh, if it'll load for me. Ah, good. Good. Technology. Let's see if I can just switch tabs. Okay. All right, are we seeing this? Good, yes. All right. Here is one of the previous cohorts. I think this was cohort 6, and some of their final games. Awesome. All right, and you can see there that I Really love Mythbusters. All right. So you're not going to make that dream game more than likely, and that's because your dream games are all going to take you years. That's the dream games tend not to be small scope, but you may well make something delightful, wonderful in just 2 months, and you'll build it with a team. All right. So here is the general curriculum of the program. We are, like I said, shortening from 4 months to 2 months. So how we're setting it up is we're simply doing 4 2-week sprints. So you and your team will spend 2 weeks in prototype. You'll have tasks to get done by the end of the 2 weeks. Primary task in prototype is to decide which game you're actually building. So you'll be testing a couple of prototypes back to back and deciding which one you actually want to go with. In Sprint 2, the next 2 weeks, you'll build an alpha version of your game. You can tell these have to be teeny tiny games if you only have 2 weeks to get an alpha done. In Sprint 3, you'll spend another 2 weeks getting your game to beta. This means you are somewhere around content complete. You probably still have polish and bug fixes to do. And then in your final 2 weeks, you will actually launch the game. So given that we are halving the length of the game, these are truly going to be the teeniest and the tiniest of games. You are really attempting to build something more like a vertical slice, if you guys know that term, which means something that you could pitch to build into a bigger game later. This is also, finally, after over a year, we are bringing the House Cup back. For those who have been in our programs before, you know that once, or twice a year actually, one of the 4 ancient and noble houses of the Indie Game Academy wins the House Cup. When you first create a team, you'll be able to pledge your team to one of the 4 houses and then vie for the House Cup by winning points over the span of the cohort. That's mostly for us to gamify the program a little bit and have fun together. And to date, House Warrior is the only house that has yet to win a cup. Poor House Warrior. I believe Ranger and Cleric both have 3 wins, and Rogue has 2. So if you are, if you're for the little guy, if you're for the David, perhaps come in as House Warrior. All right, one of our previous students from IJ Level 3 is Andy Lee. He took one of our earliest programs, and he still is a good friend. I just saw him at GDC this last year. I'm very excited that I recently got a test engineering job at a company making VR concert experiences. During my interviews, I was questioned more than once about my current endeavor with the Indie Game Academy and doing Unity programming in a group project. I believe it directly impacted me getting the job. Now, while I want you all to get jobs, I also believe that getting jobs in this industry right now is kind of bullshit. For everyone, especially juniors. So what I would encourage all of you to aim towards is launching your own studios or joining indie studios. While none of us can guarantee success, absolutely not, I believe that indies are the future and that we're seeing the wave of indies right this second. And I don't even think it's a secret anymore. I think it's obvious that it's happening. All right, here are our professors for Cohort 9 of the Indie Game Academy. We'll run through them one at a time. Number 1, one of my good buddies. He actually lives just a couple hours away from me. Been fantastic to professionally get to know Buddy Sola. Buddy is the head of marketing at Akupara Games. They're the creators of Rain World, with credits including Cryptmaster, Rain World, and Astrea. Buddy is incredibly knowledgeable. I've actually asked him to cover funding. So he's going to talk about both crowdfunding as well as going after publishers and going after VC. So he's going to give you a lesson in what you do next. He'll be one of your last professors who will teach you, like, if you were going to turn this into a real game in a real studio, what would you do next? Frank Connolly is an old mentor of mine and a very good friend as well. He is ex-executive director at American Red Cross and founder of Temple Spaces. So he is a more traditional business dude. So he's actually going to be the one teaching you budgeting this cohort. We're going to do a sort of like mock budget where at the end of the 2 months, you will both try to budget how much fake dollars it costs you to make this game, and then you'll find out how many fake dollars it actually costs you to build the game, to give you a rudimentary, quick understanding of how to budget as an indie studio. This is the first time we're doing this. We believe this is a fundamental skill that more people need to learn, and that's why we've included it in the cohort. Next, we have Renee Gittens. Renee Gittens has taught many times for us. She is incredibly talented. She was actually on Forbes 30 Under 30 and launched her own studio, Stumbling Cat, who created Potions: A Curious Tale. She is studio head at Stumbling Cat, and she is still IGDA alumni board chair. She's going to talk about fundamentals of game design and creating a fantastic game, ideating a fantastic game, deciding which game has the most likelihood of success. Jeremy House is an ex-student. He graduated from level 3 in, I think, our first or second cohort, and is now a platform product leader at Riot Games, with contributions including Diablo Immortal, League of Legends, and the Riot Forge indie label. Jeremy is going to be talking about project management, so he's going to give you an introduction on essentially Kanban boards and managing tasks on your game. And so that way we all get our games done. And once again, we get one of those fundamental lessons of how to make sure our games get done on time and how to follow our team and make sure our team gets things done on time. June Rodriguez is a new professor for us. She is Senior Marketing Manager at Squid Games and IGDA Austin Marketing Lead. June will be giving us fundamentals of social media marketing, and over the span of the cohort, you're going to be building a couple of social media posts about your game. Once again, you can see the pattern here to get the fundamentals of how you market a game and hopefully how to build a new game in the future that has eyeballs. And finally, there's me. Hello. So each of those people, you're going to have one day that is dedicated to hanging out with them and learning from them. And then the other lessons in between are with me. I'm design director at Montco Studios, founder of Indie Game Academy. I've worked on a number of games, including at Paradox Interactive, Together Labs, and Lumosity. And I will be your sort of everything else professor. So I will be guiding you, making sure your games get done, and teaching any of the lessons that the professors don't cover. So those are your 6 professors for this cohort. So you'll be getting a fundamental intro to principles of game design, funding and publishing, budgeting, project management, marketing, and then a sprinkling of everything else. So we'll also talk a little bit about narrative, we'll talk a little bit about art, but it is mostly, as I've said a few times now, about getting together with a team, building a game, launching that freaking game. All right, now the Indie Game Foundry, like I said, I'm not going to talk about here today, but we have some very exciting stuff, a fundamentally different way to approach it that we think matches the industry better and is going to be wild, wacky, and super fun that we're going to launch in January, and we're hoping to announce that in the next month or two. So to summarize the contents of the class, that means you have 16 live 2-hour class sessions. So if you like this, you're going to get 16 of them. An indie team of 1 through 7. For the first time, we are allowing solo development. While we encourage you to join a team, we also recognize that some people just prefer solo dev, so we're allowing solo dev for the first time. You'll get access to those 6 veteran professors, 1 dedicated team prefect, so 1 member of each team will act as essentially your project manager and will make sure your game gets done and out. You can volunteer for that in the application. You'll see a little section about that. You'll get a published game of your own design to itch.io, a chance to pitch your game to 4 to 5 actual game publishers, a community of wonderful magical wizards, and more. So the best part about this whole thing is the pricing. You'll notice this is a smaller program than it once was. That's on purpose. There's 2 reasons that we're doing that. The first reason is because it used to be that the program was sort of half-serving beginners and sort of half-serving founders. And we want to cleanly split that now. For those who have not yet launched a game or 2 or 3 with a team, and you want to get a game done, and you want to get it launched, that's what level 3 is for. So it's a little bit more beginner friendly. It's a little bit more about just getting a game out there. We understand this is a practice project, a portfolio project, and maybe it'll turn into something bigger. The Foundry, our publishing arm, is where you should go if you are ready to found a studio, and that's all you care about today. And that we'll need to talk about in a month or 2. But so level 3 is a little bit more beginner friendly, and as a result, we have made it shorter so that you aren't spending so much time on a practice project. In addition, though, the shorter class allows us to dramatically reduce pricing. So in the past, when it was 4 months long, we had all kinds of extra goodies that we were trying to add to make it super complicated and serve everybody's needs and make it super wonderful. We were forced to price the class at about $5,000 to make it reasonable for our own finances. I'm happy to say that by making it simpler, we have been able to bring this price down to under $1,000, basically $1,000. So you can join IGA Level 3 for $999, and we do still have those scholarships that are now randomly assigned. 25% of students will randomly get a scholarship if they ask for it, and scholarships bring it down to just $400. So dramatically cheaper, a little bit more beginner friendly, faster, just 2 months long. We get you done, we get you out, you have a finished portfolio project, and then perhaps you come and join us in the Foundry if we all think your game is super freaking cool. That is everything, I think. I will now drop the links to join the class. You've seen it there as a QR code in the bottom right, and then that link is also there in case you need it. But please hit me up with questions. What do people need to know about IG Level 3? We would love to see you come and join. I am kind of relieved and excited to run this program again. We've been going through a lot of iterations deciding exactly what we should do as a school because the industry is crazy and has changed a lot since we ran this last. What questions do folks have? And also, one day, will you join me at Jurassic Park? My aspiration is to be this guy. That's one day. I'm not quite gray enough, but I'll get there. I'll get there. Too early or too revealing? How many participants have you gathered, or is that a reveal for later? Not really a reveal. The program typically runs with 20 to 40 students. Right now, it's looking like we'll have somewhere between like 25 and 30 total students, which means, given that we are now allowing for smaller teams, probably that means we'll have somewhere between 4 and 8 games getting made all together. That's kind of one of the special parts of the program. You get to have other teams that are also working on games. You get to share resources, see how other people are doing things, etc. All right, how different would you expect the experience being for solo devs versus teams? James, good question. So if you are comfortable, I encourage folks to do team-based game development, and the main reason for that is because most of the best games out there are built by teams. We totally see our Stardew Valleys now and then, where a solo dev is a psychopath and makes the game themselves for 7 years. But in general, landing a job, starting a studio, building a game are social experiences. So we encourage you to work with a team. That said, we are allowing for solo devs, and the experience won't really meaningfully change. The way where it will be different is there will be breakout room activities. So we will send you to go and work with your team to make a social media post, let's say. And in that case, you're going to be sitting in a room alone, which may be sad. We're going to allow solo devs to collaborate. So you could, for instance, go and hang out with another team, and therefore you at least have people to talk to. But of course, it's up to you to decide what your social media post is, or whatever else you're doing in that breakout exercise, if you are a solo dev. All right, Reaper Obsidian. I have a question about level 2. I went to school for game dev, but could never quite grasp some of the coding aspects, and was, in a sense, kicked to the side to just kind of floating along and passing. How much do I need to understand or know to qualify for that class? Super good question, Reaper. So, I would encourage you to, especially if you've already gone to school, I would encourage you to join level 3 if you feel proficient in contributing to a game. One of the things that's special about level 3 and unique to the program is that it is meant to be interdisciplinary. So there's going to be one engineer on the team and an artist. And that artist doesn't need to know how to code because their engineer is doing the coding, right? For you, it kind of depends on where you're at. If you're like, man, I feel totally uncomfortable, I can't even get my hands dirty inside the game engine, then yeah, you probably do want to start simpler. And if that's the case, we don't actually have a confirmed level 2 for this year. We already ran our last level 2 of the year for right now, but we will have more coming next year. We are running stuff like this little quick intro to hopefully get people what they need. The fundamental requirement to join level 3 is that you have finished a practice project before. So we want to see that you made a little Flappy Bird, or you made a little 3D platformer in Unreal. We want to see that at least you have gotten your hands dirty in the engine to the point where we know you aren't going to drag your team down. But because it's collaborative and interdisciplinary, I encourage you to go for it, and especially with this new format where it's meant to be a little bit more beginner friendly. We want folks who are in here just to make that first practice project, and those more serious folks who might be in this room, hell yeah, we want to see you do it, but we work with you in Foundry if you're a little bit more serious. All right, do any of these level 3 bootcamps run during the summer? Very good question. Yes and no. This is the only one for the rest of this year. We won't run any more level 3s this year. This is actually the last big class of the year at all. Like I said, we're not doing a level 2 either. Over 2027, next year, we will run 2 level 3s and 4 level 2s, and we do usually have one along the summer. Our schedule is sort of up and change because of the thing that we're going to start in January that hopefully all of you are actually going to think is super cool. A bit depressing, says James. So, okay. I hope you don't get depressed. Like I said, we will at least put solo collaborators together in the room so you can spitball and work together. So we'll put you in the room. My main point is you won't have a collaborator to bounce ideas off of. You'll have another game. You'll have other contributors to their own projects to bounce ideas off of. And so if that works for you, then hell yeah, that sounds great. Nave, good question. At the end of level 3, if you're not excited to continue with your team, what's the next step? Very good question. So, one of the things that I think was actually hard on the program in the past was exactly that question. We had half-ish of people who were doing this because it's fun and they want to get a game done. And then we had half-ish of people who were like, hell no, I want to go all the way. I want to launch a studio. I want to work for the biggest names in the industry. And trying to serve both those people was hard. So in general, this program is meant a little bit more for this person. If you're early in your stage being this person, if you haven't released a game or two already, then it serves both of those people. But if you're like already pretty confident, I do think that this program is meant to be a little bit more beginner friendly. So the reason that I say that is because you should treat this project like it's a practice project. Your most likely outcome here is that you're going to release a game that you're proud of, not that you're going to release the next Mecha Chameleon, right? However, so if you get really excited, if you're like, holy crap, we've made the best game ever, and it's showing traction, and people are getting pumped, and our team freaking loves it, what you are signing at the beginning of the program with your team is a deal that everybody has equal ownership of the game. And so if you wanted to continue working on the game, you would then have to negotiate with everybody on your team for what happens to that game. What we have seen some people do is they kind of negotiate people out who don't want to work on it anymore. So they'll say like, we'll let you keep 1% of the game, but you aren't working on it anymore. That is something that we will talk about at the end of the program so that you can kind of decide together what you do with the game. But more than likely, this is a practice project. And then what I would expect to happen more often is maybe you totally fall in love with these developers, this team, and you're having a great time. Then you work on the next game, a new game, something even better. 1%, surprisingly, is actually generous. At my day job, which is a startup, so I'm getting more than most companies. I have 2%, 2 whole percent. And that's because stuff gets diluted very fast. When you have money involved, you'd be surprised at how quick ownership goes down. A typical startup that has had traditional funding, so like VC funding, the founders will wind up with like 30% between them. So 70% will be allocated to other stuff. And that can sound annoying, but first of all, it's a good lesson for all of you to know. And second of all, the sort of like tried and true mentality there is 100% of 0 is a lot less than 10% of a million, right? All right. Do you ever run game jams? We do run game jams. We haven't run one in a hot second, but we do indeed run game jams. In the past, we've actually run 4 a year. We will definitely be putting on more game jams. We probably won't do one this year because we're prepping for that thing in January. But keep an eye out, James. Absolutely. We'll do some game jams together. Our sort of like staple of our game jams is that they have some guidance. So similar to this class, actually, we'll throw 1 or 2 smart people into the mix of the jam, and they'll actually review design docs and stuff like that together. Writing code for a long time, but haven't made a game before or know much about it. Would I be level 1? If so, what might be the next one? Sir Intelligent, if you've been writing code and you feel pretty comfortable with code and you want to join level 3, what I will often do for folks like you who are like pretty technically competent and want to join but they haven't finished a practice project yet, is we can give you a tutorial or 2 and get you to finish something by the time you get to level 3, and that way you'll have enough experience. Once again, I wouldn't, maybe last time we were in this cohort, I may not have recommended this, but now that it's meant to be a little bit more beginner friendly, it's for people doing practice projects. I think freaking go for it. I think the best time is now. If you need a level 1, we are talking about running one right before this, September 5th and 6th, but we're not sure if we're going to be able to do that. So I will look out for that in the Discord. I'll drop it if we can do it. The main reason I'm hesitant is because I'm coming back from freaking Gamescom, which is in Germany, and I live in the US. I've never been there before. I'm coming back from Gamescom on the 3rd, so it's gonna be insane. I do want to do it. I don't know if I can commit yet, guys. I gotta search my soul a little bit, but I will try. Thanks, Reaper. Yeah, so Sir Intelligence, if you feel relatively technically competent, I would encourage you to jump into a game engine and make your first little practice project. You've got 3 weeks before the program starts, really 4 weeks before the program starts. That's plenty of time to make a practice project where you know enough that you could contribute to a team like this. I'd love to see you join if you feel good about it. There's the link for everyone. Oh, and of course, I forgot. It said it in the. It says it in the thing. It says it in the deck, but I forgot to say this out loud. We do early bird discount, which is ending right now. We stopped the early bird discount 1 month before the program starts. The program starts September 8th, and it runs Tuesday and Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. EST. So it's twice a week, 2 hours a week, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. EST, same time as this class. On August 7th, which is this Friday, we are ending our early bird discount. The early bird discount knocks 20% off the top of whatever ticket price you get. So if you got a scholarship, it would go down by an additional 20%. If you didn't get a scholarship, you would wind up saving $200. So even if you're a little hesitant, I would encourage you to apply. You'll see if you get a scholarship if you ask for a scholarship. You will definitely secure an early bird just for applying right now. And then, of course, we'd love to see you in the class. Unreal felt super easy to get started in, and I heard Godot might treat you well. Awesome, yeah. I had the hardest time with Godot, personally. Okay, so I've never worked professionally in Godot. Let me preface with that. And I've worked professionally in Unity by far the most. So I'm biased. I think there's blessings and curses to all three, and to any other. There's plenty of other ways you can make games too, of course. I think Unity's main blessing is that there's just an obscene amount of resources out there for it. Live in Unity game engine. Yeah, there's an obscene amount of resources. There's so many people who use it, and so there's so much like support out there. There's so many example projects. There's so much practice projects. There's so many people who know how to use Unity. And in general, there are more jobs in Unity, although, once again, I don't really feel good about telling people to go and get jobs anymore because it's insane and absurd. But yeah, that level of support is very nice about Unity. That said, I do think Unity's time is starting to pass. And I used to swear by Unity, so this is a big deal for me to say to all of you. Unreal, I think, is interesting because it's even older than Unity, but they're having sort of a second wind right now, or a third or a fourth wind. Because one, they aren't being quite as shitty as Unity has been lately. And so people are just sort of flocking to the other AAA game engine. Two, I do think they're great at getting you started. Like, you guys made a game in 2 hours with a dude that jumps around. You couldn't do that in Unity in 2 hours, what you just built. But I think once you get into the minutia, once you're working on like an actual professional project, I think Unreal is dramatically harder, actually. And then Godot is funky, man. If you've used like GIMP or any other open source software, it's got a learning curve for sure. But it has a place near and dear to my heart because it's open source and fuck yeah, and down with a man, and yeah. I want to say worse things about a certain billionaire class, but maybe I should be good in the classroom with all of you. All right, where's a copy of the schedule again? Yes. So that's a good thing that I should have prepared for you. I don't have a publicly accessible version of the schedule. It is going from September 8th to October 29th. Maybe, why don't I put it in this slide so at least it's written there. And it is Tuesday and Thursday nights. There's no days that we're skipping in this one. And it is 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. EST. Otherwise, I don't have a publicly accessible version of the curriculum yet for you. That's something that we usually finalize as we're talking with the professors and stuff. But that'll at least let you, make sure you can do it. Cool. Yeah, Adobe. Actually, I finally got rid of Adobe. I've had a subscription to Adobe for a long time. I finally let go of Photoshop. I use either Canva or GIMP. And I finally let go of Premiere. I've been using CapCut. I kind of hate it too. I don't know. 2 weeks per month or every week. It is every week, Sir Intelligence. 2 days per week. So we're meeting twice a week. What does that mean? 8 times a month. So 16 total classes. Blender's great. That's true. As far as open source software goes, Blender is like masterclass. Absolutely. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Holy crap, it's 9:10. How did that happen? All right, I'll give you one last push. I will send you an email tomorrow with the recording from this class. But otherwise, this page has a little bit more information about the class, and then most importantly, it has the actual application here. Early bird tickets end August 7th. All you have to do is apply by then. I would love to see you apply. I would love to see you come and join If the time zone is bad for you, I'm sorry. All classes are always recorded, so you can join after the fact. We've had people join from horrendous time zones. We had somebody from the Ukraine a couple of cohorts ago who was joining at like 3 a.m. or something. So if it's your thing, then heck yeah, we would love to see you come and join. Alaska, what time is it for you then, Reaper? It's this time. It's at this time. If you're awake now, you can be awake then. 5:09 a.m. Oh, you psycho. Oh, Reaper, you psychopath. We love you. We love crazy people here. Oh, PM. Oh, that's not that bad. All right. I'm going to let everybody go now. I will send you one email tomorrow with the recording from today's class. And I'll include this link if you would like to join. Like I said, apply by August 7th this Friday. If you would like that early bird discount, get you a cool $200 off. The price of the class has literally never been cheaper. We have never run the class for this cheap. Even at the very beginning, cohort 1, it was $2,400. And the reason we can make it that cheap is because we have simplified, made it 2 months long. It's just about let's get the freaking game out. Thank you everybody for being here. We do have that free class tomorrow night, the paper prototyping class that will be run by moi. And we're going to try to run a couple more classes coming up. The Indie Game Academy has been a lifelong effort to bring to life. And it's been a little bit more dormant the past couple of months as we are deciding what the hell to do in this crazy industry. But we're putting in active effort to bring it back to life now. All right. Don't think your email is in the system. Give me your email now. Well, that's weird. Can you DM me your email, Sir Intelligence? How about that? And I will add it to the email tomorrow. Yeah, we don't want to give your email to Color Optimus. You can't trust that guy. He's making games about pizza. All right, cool. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get one. Actually, do this for me. I can't see your faces, so I can't guarantee you're doing it. But raise your arm up to the sky if you are willing and able. Raise your arm up. Don't worry, it's not a religious thing. Bend your arm about 90 degrees. And give yourself a nice pat on the back. Congratulations, everybody. Well done giving yourself a couple of hours to improve yourselves as game developers and have a lot of fun. I'm excited to see you all again soon. Hopefully tomorrow night, and hopefully in level 3. Otherwise, whenever the heck I do. Goodbye, everybody.